was the more painful to young D'Artagnan, for that was the name of the Don Quixote of this second Rocinante, that he could not conceal from himself the ridiculous light in which he, albeit so good a horseman, was placed by such a steed. He had, therefore, sighed deeply when he accepted the gift from Monsieur d'Artagnan his father. He knew that such a beast was worth about 20 francs. It is true that the words which accompanied the present were above price. "My son," said the Gascon gentleman, in that pure Bonese patois or dialect which Henry IV could never entirely shake off, "my son, this horse was born in the paternal homestead about 13 years ago, and has remained in it ever since, which ought to make you regard it with affection. Never sell it. Let it die honourably of old age and in tranquillity, and should you make a campaign with it, take as much care of it as you would of an old servant. At the court, if you should ever have the honour to be presented, an honour, however, to which your long line of noble ancestors entitles you, support with dignity the name of gentleman, which has been honourably borne by your ancestors, for the sake of you and yours, for more than 500 years. Never submit quietly to the slightest indignity, except it proceed from the cardinal or the king. It is by his courage, mark this well, it is by his courage alone that a gentleman makes his way nowadays. Whoever hesitates one moment lets perhaps that chance escape him which fortune for that moment alone has offered him. You are young and ought to be brave, for 2 reasons. The first, because you are a Gascon. The second, because you are my son. Have no fear of many imbroglios, and look about for adventures. You have been taught to handle the sword. You have muscles of iron, a wrist like steel. Fight whenever you can, the more so because duels are forbidden, and consequently it requires twice as much courage to fight. I have to give you but 15 crowns, my son, besides the horse, and the advice which you have heard. Your mother will add to them the recipe for a certain balsam, which she received from a Bohemian woman, and which has the miraculous power of curing every wound which has fallen short of the heart. Take advantage of all, and live long and happily. I have only 1 word more to add, and it is the offer of an example, not my own, for I have never been at court. I have only served in the religious wars as a volunteer. I wish to speak to you of Monsieur de Treville, once my neighbour, who has had the honour of playing, whilst a boy, with our King Louis XIII, whom God preserve. Sometimes their play turned to battles, and in these battles the king did not always conquer. Yet his conquests by Monsieur de Treville imbued him with a great deal of esteem and friendship for him. Afterwards, Monsieur de Treville fought other battles. Indeed, merely during his journey to Paris he fought 5 times. From the death of the late monarch to the majority of the young king, he has fought 7 times, without reckoning campaigns and sieges, and since that majority till now, perhaps 100 times. And yet, in spite of edicts, ordinances, and writs, behold him now captain of the Musketeers. That is, chief of a legion of Caesars, upon whom the king mainly depends, and who are feared by the cardinal, who, as everyone knows, is not easily alarmed. Moreover, Monsieur de Treville gains 10,000 crowns a year, and therefore is a man of consequence. He began the world as you do. Go to him with this letter, and let your conduct be regulated by him, that you may meet with the same results." Hereupon Monsieur d'Artagnan, the father, girded his own sword upon his son, tenderly kissed him on either cheek, and gave him his blessing. Leaving the paternal chamber, the young man found his mother waiting with the famous recipe, which, from the advice he had just received, it seemed very probable that he would require to use pretty often. The adieus were longer and more tender on this side than on the other. Not but that Monsieur d'Artagnan loved his son, who was his only child, but that Monsieur d'Artagnan was a man who would have considered it unworthy of himself to give way to any sentiment, whilst Madame d'Artagnan